This time on Film Ranker, we are looking at the films of Paul Thomas Anderson. The director, writer, producer has so far made only 8 full-length feature films plus a documentary that we're not going to include here. And each one is genius in its own way, but even if they're all good, they still need ranking. So let's get down to business. Number 8, Inherent Vice. Inherent Vice is a great film. It was on a ton of top 10 lists. It had solid reviews. It was up for 2 Oscars, for crying out loud. Johnny Greenwood's soundtrack is fantastic. Joaquin is great, as is all of the supporting cast, especially Josh Brolin. I would be crazy to say that it's a bad film, but this is Paul Thomas Anderson that we are talking about. They're all great films. And this neo-film noir is just a bit too dense, a bit too meandering, and it never quite arrives at its point. That said, it is one that grows on you with repeat viewings. Number 7, The Master. It seems like Anderson's most intimate film on the surface. The camera is rarely far from the subject, but at the same time, it's his most distant. It's brimming with characters that are hiding behind false transparency. That isn't to say that Anderson's takedown of Scientology isn't brilliant. It is. And Philip Seymour Hoffman shines as the cult leader with the paper-thin veneer. But after a while, all the delusion and weirdness becomes a lot. It does make for a somewhat draining experience. Number 6, Hard 8. The 90s was a weird hotbed of fantastic breakout films. Reservoir Dogs, Shallow Grave, Pie, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but for my money, best of the bunch was Hard 8. It's fitting that Anderson's first film centers around a father-son relationship with soon-to-be mainstay players Philip Baker Hall and John C. Reilly, both shining in their roles. We also get a glimpse of Philip Seymour Hoffman in a memorable cameo. Even though the final cut may have suffered from studio input, it's interesting to see Anderson's thoughtful and meticulous filmmaking in such an accessible movie. Number 5, Punch Drunk Love. There's a terrific push-pull throughout Punch Drunk Love between the classic romantic comedy and the tension of being plopped right into the heart of someone dealing with mental illness. Much has been made of Adam Sandler's surprisingly terrific turn as the lead, and rightly so. But John Bryan's soundtrack also deserves a lot of credit, as it cuts from hectic insanity to sweeping chords and then back again, and jangles our nerves along with it. It's a different, modern, and effective take on a well-worn genre. Number 4, Boogie Nights. The film that put Anderson on the map and earned him full creative control. Boogie Nights is maybe the best film ever made about the porn industry, with the business front and center. This is the first of his films to really use that Robert Altman-style intertwining cast, and it works like a dream, with Anderson often tying his world together through clever one-shots and creative intersections. Just watch Reynolds walk through the house near the end, or that terrific transition between the 3 cars just before the donut robbery. The film maybe gets a little bit long in that final act, but the first 2/3 are very daring stuff. Number 3, Magnolia. Anderson's most divisive film. It unfortunately comes down to how you feel about the few big surprises in that last act, in particular the frogs, and how comfortable you are suspending your disbelief beyond just those frogs. But there is something so engaging about how all of it moves. Anderson pushes the gas right to the end and then lets up just a bit, over and over and over again. The camera's always in motion, the story's cut in and out at just the right time. There's never too much or too little. All of the threads are interesting from the get-go, and when we finally connect them up through that shared song, it's a well-earned moment of beauty. I get why some people don't like it just as much as I get why others are going to put it right at the top of their lists. Number 2, The Phantom Thread. Talk about style imitating substance. The Phantom Thread is so classy, I feel like I need to put on a bow tie and jacket just to watch it. It is the epitome of deliberate filmmaking. Every piece fits together, every line of dialogue has been edited down to its essential core, every shot is the perfect blend of light and dark and symmetry. The costumes all look like they're literally $1 million. And then there's the acting. Maybe the best example is that breakfast scene where Daniel Day-Lewis conveys everything we need to know about his character just by ordering food. The downfall of the film is in that final act when all of that subtext becomes somewhat clunky text, but the first 4/5 are so good. Number 1. There Will Be Blood. It should surprise nobody that this film tops the list. It is Anderson's magnum opus. It looks spectacular, every shot sweeping and grand, a giant of a film that makes you wonder if you should buy a bigger TV. The story is as tight as it gets. Every scene serves 2 or 3 purposes. Characters are developed, relationships matter deeply, arcs all find meaningful conclusions, and then there is Daniel Day-Lewis. Nobody else could deliver that milkshake line in that voice and get away with it. It says a lot about a film that it can draw the viewer in this deeply, even when there isn't really anyone to root for. And that is it. Please let me know your own list. I've got a feeling that 8 different people could have 8 different number ones, and I'm honestly interested in hearing the reasoning for each. Also, go ahead and like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you all next time.